Hello and good morning to our listeners from around the world. I want to welcome you to another great edition of This Morning with Soulivity, broadcasting live from our studio here in Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I'm so glad you're here with us. It is President's Day here in the United States. And because of that, I'm joined with my very special friend, Sheila Applegate. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's President's Day here. It's a national holiday. I think a lot of businesses are closed today, right, Sheila?
Yes, I believe that is true. Working for myself, I forget these things, but
Well, how was your
schools are
weekend?
closed.
How was your weekend? Was your weekend okay?
Yeah, I had a great weekend. I did. I enjoyed well, I started taxes. That's not fun, but
Yeah. Death, love,
I
and taxes, right?
yeah.
Well, we spent time with our grandbaby, which was absolutely glorious. So I'm doing a shout out to my grandbaby Azari.
Aw, she's so
Yeah,
cute.
yeah, she's wonderful. Listen, as we're talking here, we want you to join in on our conversation. We've got a great hot topic coming up that I'm going to introduce in just a second. But we want you to be part of this conversation. We want you to interact with us, ask questions, be curious, give us your thoughts. Just post them directly right into our chats on Facebook and YouTube and let us know where you're coming from, like if you're overseas or here in North America, and we'll do a shout out to you. So why don't we go ahead and get started? Again, like I said before, it's President's Day, and I thought we would dedicate our broadcast today to the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter. It was announced a day ago that he would be entering hospice care. But here's the latest from The Guardian. Tributes continue to be made to the former U.S. President Jimmy Carter after the announcement that the 90-year-old had entered hospice care at his home in Plains, Georgia, instead of receiving additional medical treatment. Raphael Nornock, the Democratic Georgia senator, said, across life seasons, President Jimmy Carter, a man of great faith, has walked with God. In this tender time of transitioning, God is surely walking with him. Now, the oldest living president has opted to spend his remaining time at his home at a statement by the Carter Center. Um, wow. I was kind of, I know that Jimmy Carter was up there in age. As we said before, he's the oldest living president. But Sheila, I got the feels on this one.
Yeah, I did too. In both pleasant, like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
a beautiful way. Of course, he gets to end his life with the same grace that he's lived it. Um, but it tugged at my heart too, which is interesting because I was young when he was the president, but he is just
yeah,
such an incredible human being, and it feels
right.
like an era is ending in my mind, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm remembering when I was a young boy, like you when you were a young girl. I mean, I remember him as being president. I remember, the jokes about him being a peanut farmer,
Mhm.
which he was actually very successful at. I mean, people said that he was a great, 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 great farmer. Um, um, and that I remember him during his presidency as somebody who was just kind, you know.
Mm. I
Um,
remember the peanut jokes, and also, I don't know if you knew the jingle that was sung on our bus, but it went to the song of Oscar Mayer jingle, and it was not very nice to him.
oh
And
yeah,
I remember singing I still know the words, but thinking back at it in my later years, because my parents were Republican, so I'm
hmm
sure they said
hmm
that's not nice, but they
right,
didn't
right, of course.
do anything terrible about it, and it's just like, wow, we were so conditioned even as young children to have these opinions that we knew nothing about, you know?
Right, right, and um And I thought that he was such, we had just gone through Watergate
Mhm.
and all that kind of thing. And it just seemed like this was a breath of fresh air in terms of
Right,
the difference between Jimmy Carter and the other politicians at the time.
right. It feels like it. I mean, like we both had the same perception, like we were kids, but that sure does feel like a time that was calmer. He was moving in a lot. Now that I know, having, as an adult learned more about him, he was moving into a lot of the directions that people are wanting today.
Right, right. And I mean, we're gonna dig deep into um, a lot of his life, some of his accomplishments, and other things. Maybe some surprising things that you didn't know about him. Not you, Sheila.
Mhm.
I'm sure you know a lot about him, but people out in our audience. Um, and I was just thinking about the fact that he lived almost a century,
Mhm.
but an important century where we moved from our kind of industrial age of the 20th century into the 21st century where it's the information age.
Right.
And that he I think that he had a different view about early on of what we needed to be focusing on. um and it wasn't about making money. That was just
No.
not, that was not, I don't think that was him at all. One thing that I can say that I can bring forth as one little surprising fact about him was he did not grow up rich. He was
Right.
not a person that was sitting in the lap of luxury. um he was born on October 1st, 1924. So that was right smack dab in the middle of the Great Depression. And his family relocated to Archery, Georgia. It said a town that relied chiefly on mule-drawn wagons for transportation when Carter was 4 years old. Indoor plumbing and electricity were rare. I'm going to repeat that. Indoor plumbing and electricity were rare. And to pass time, Jimmy Carter typically listened to entertainment shows on a battery operated radio with his father. So
Isn't that
that was his life.
incredible?
Right.
Yeah.
That was his life
And he
um, early on.
after the presidency, he went back to his home, to that family
Hmm.
home, and he continues to live there,
Wow.
which is incredible,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
I saw a
Wow.
picture of that, and because I live in an old farmhouse too, and
Hmm.
I looked at that and I'm like, oh wow, that kind of looks like my home, you know, but even kind of like just not what we think of as
Hmm.
presidents today.
Hmm.
It's amazing.
What do you think about? I had a friend of mine ask me this. When we found out about Jimmy Carter, him going into hospice. What do you think about it when you juxtapose Jimmy Carter's time in politics to politics of today? What do you feel about that?
Well, peace, but you know,
Yeah, right,
it
right.
seems it's nostalgic as a piece. Now, once I knew we were talking about this today, of course, I delved in a little deeper. And interestingly, and you might have seen this too, there's some belief or insight that the media treatment of presidents that kind of now goes into the family and their personal
Mm,
life,
yeah,
that
yeah.
started with his campaign and people kind of going in and getting out, quoting some things that wouldn't have usually been quoted, that weren't said, as
Mhm.
being in the public eye. So some of that, ironically, was like started back then. And look where we've
Mm,
come from that. Yeah, I think it was he was
right.
quoted in Playboy, and
Yes.
that was the big
Yes.
scandal that
Yes.
kind of turned things into, yeah, not having those same boundaries.
Right, right. I remember that story because it was like, and he wasn't president then, right? He was
Right,
still
it was during
running
his campaign, yeah.
campaign, and that a presidential nominee would actually go do an interview with Playboy during that time. Now, I mean, you and I both know Playboy was mainstream back then,
Mhm. Right,
right? I mean,
right.
there were many people who had done um interviews that were prominent in Playboy, but this was the first time, because I that a maybe a future president would be in it. Um, but there was all this kind of morality thing happening back then too, right?
Right, which really, I mean, my guess right now is he was one of the most moralistic
Right, right.
and yet they were, yeah, because I think his quote in there was saying something like he's been unfaithful in his heart, unfaithful in his heart,
Right,
and he's
yeah,
lusted
yeah.
over some women, but, like, he didn't take action over it, and isn't that, like, every person? Like,
Right.
we would be lying if we didn't say that. And that was the scandal back then.
Yeah, and so isn't that, I mean, again, thanks for this because how far we have come. I mean, if a person had said that today, they were like, "Why are you saying that?
Right.
Why are
You
you
mean
bringing
you're
that
not
up?"
paying off your last like, what do we care? That won't get clicks.
Oh, he looked at somebody and said, "Ooh, that's a beautiful woman," and or a
End of
beautiful
the
man, depends upon.
presidency, right.
But yeah, I mean, it just, I just look at those times and I look at, you know, where we were and the changes. I mean, we went from the huge big automobiles
Mhm.
over his presidency to the point at which I think in the early 80s, the United States started welcoming in like the compact cars and that kind of thing. And so by mid 80s, I mean both my parents had Toyotas at that point, which was like, wow, Toyotas. Wow, listen, we're gonna take a quick break, everybody. We're gonna keep talking about the life and legacy of Jimmy Carter. And so we'll be back with more of This Morning, and we're gonna, you know, talk about some little known facts that you may not know about this fantastic and wonderful man. So we'll be back in 2 minutes. Hey there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life. And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Sheila Applegate, and we're talking about the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter. People just wanted to let everybody know that over the weekend that he went into hospice and that he's at his family's home and that he's resting comfortably and that he's doing okay for now. And when we have more information, we'll let you know. Sheila, I was thinking about this. I know that Jimmy Carter, he only had one. He only served presidency. He only served as president for one term, and that one term was kind of marred with a lot of criticism. Some just, some unjust. But there were many little known facts about him that I think people don't know about, and so I wanted to kind of talk about that. So I'm going to go first, and then I'm going to ask you about one that you may want to share. One that was interesting that I thought that was related just to the presidency and just his life. He never liked the pageantry of the presidency. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was from the rural South, grew up with probably no indoor plumbing or electricity, and that when he said this is from this article, 10 Things You Might Not Know About Jimmy Carter from Mental Floss. It said when Carter entered the office of the presidency in 1977, he made it clear that he considered himself no more elevated in status than his voters simply because of political power. He sold the presidential yacht, thinking it was a symbol of excess. He also carried his own briefcase and banned workers from playing Hail to the Chief during appearances.
Right.
Now, that's interesting,
That's
right?
humbleness, right?
Right, because when have you in recent history, when have you ever seen a president not walk into da, 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 da,
Right.
da, 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 da. I mean, it is always. So that didn't happen during his presidency. We got a quick comment here and from the Weekend Bohemian. I love it. He's such an extraordinary person. I really enjoy hearing about his work after his presidency.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that, Sheila. What's one thing that you think that people don't know about that you know?
Well, I didn't know until recently, so I'm assuming maybe there's others of you out there, but he during his pregnancy maybe
Yeah, it
it
was a
was
little
you
bit
as
pregnant.
pregnant. Yeah.
He was pregnant as
We're
president.
still we're still working on birthing this, but he actually put up solar panels on the White House and
Yeah.
was working for renewable energy, which were taken down by Reagan after that. But looking at that and imagining where we would be as far as the environmental crisis, and I mean, if that had continued, there's no way we wouldn't have been on solar power now or
Right,
something more,
right.
and it's a big deal back then, and it wasn't accepted, but I don't know, just thinking about the potential of that timeline just takes me into a place of awe.
Right. And just to put this into context, people, he was president from 1977 to January of 81. And that was 45 years ago.
Right.
45 years ago, this president was already talking about, and even before this, he was already talking about national health care, which
Right.
was a holdover from Nixon, because Nixon was also talking about nationalized health care as well. but he was also talking about moving us away from dependence upon fossil fuels, and that he saw specifically as president that this was both a crisis for our environment, but also part of national security, because during his presidency is when the OPEC oil embargo happened as well, began, and
Mhm.
um, and that oil prices just shot through the roof. I mean, Sheila, do you remember when you were a girl, how much gasoline was a gallon where you were?
I don't. I don't. I remember well, could it have been, like, in the 80-cent mark when I was a teenager?
Maybe, yeah, because
Like,
I'm a little older than you.
I think I remember when it crossed the dollar line.
Oh yeah, yeah. In Detroit, when I was a boy, gasoline was a
Whoa.
quarter a gallon.
Wow.
Yeah, and then slowly through the 70s, it went up to like 40 cents, 50 cents, 75 cents, and then I think by the late 70s, or close to the late 70s, it was close to $1 at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
And everybody was
'Cause I
like
would have
freaking
been
out.
in the 80s, I was in high school, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
remembering, like, it
y-
maybe jumping up
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
mark. Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Like $5 for 5 gallons of gas. You could be able to fill up a car with $5. But here's a president who was already, out front in terms of where we should be.
Right.
I mean, he also started the initiative of, listen, turn down your thermostat and just put on a cardigan, right? It's why
Mm.
he wore cardigans at the
Oh,
White
cool.
House. Yes. It's
I
why he
didn't
wore cardigans at the White House, and why he put the solar panels up, like to heat water, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so crazy to me.
Right.
That's so
That we're
crazy to me.
still here.
Right.
Or yeah.
And I believe solar panels didn't go back up on the White House until President Obama became president.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So we're talking, 2008, 9 is when Barack Obama became president. So again, 30 years,
Right.
30 years later, the solar panels go back up, and we're now thinking critically about like global warming and all that kind of thing. I mean, come on.
Right.
Wow, just amazing. Um, Here's another one that I think people would be interested in knowing. Did you know that Jimmy Carter was a movie buff? Um, while he was in office, he watched more than 400 films. And that,
That's a
yeah, I
lot.
mean, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Was he a golfer, though? We probably
I know,
not.
right. Let's see. He said he enjoyed early access to many films, and he averaged a couple of movies a week while in office. Among those viewed was 1969's Midnight Cowboy, great film. 1976's All the President's Men, of course, and 1980's Caddyshack. That's also funny.
Funny.
Carter also screened 1977 Star Wars with Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. Now, I didn't know that one.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. Kicking back with the president with some popcorn, watching Star Wars, you know, looking over at Anwar Sadat saying, may the force be with you. I
Well, on
mean,
that note, he
yeah.
also, I saw that he had submitted he thinks he saw a UFO in
Yeah.
1969. So, of course, he was watching Star Wars, right?
Yeah, but tell us more about, I mean, that was pretty curious.
Right? 'Cause he spotted a strange aircraft over Leary, Georgia,
Mhm.
and then he put the report in. He said it appeared to
Mhm.
hover over 30 degrees above the horizon before disappearing. So that's in 69. So
Right? How old
and
was that?
then
So he was born in 1924. And so 69. So he was 50.
Yeah, because that would
No, I'm sorry, 40.
40 when he's not.
45. So he's 45 then.
And so he did say he was going to release sealed documents about to the collected that were collected about the UFOs if he was
Mhm.
elected.
Mhm.
But then he didn't do it because he cited national security concerns.
Whatever.
Yeah, but that has me
Ooh.
thinking, right? Because if you
Right.
believe in it, I don't know. I mean, I do think there are security concerns about different things because I don't think humanity is all that conscious all the time and we can do
Right.
crazy things.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I know it is like, well, I just got curious and like, okay, what did he see that he felt like he couldn't do it? Or could he just not do it because, I mean, I guess it could have been that they were already starting, you know,
Yeah.
different like war things that were coming over,
Mhm.
balloons
Right. Right. Exactly.
that he couldn't tell about. But
Well, speaking of balloons, we kind of blew past our commercial break
oh,
because we're talking
sorry.
about so much. No, this is so great. I just wanted to tell everybody about our new partner, MoonPod, where you can find out, where you can experience the revolution of the beanbag chair. Now, these chairs are really, really comfortable. I mean, we have one in our house, and you can go to our This Morning website. You can join our mailing list as well, but you can also find out more information about MoonPod because we have our partners that are right there. And if you click on our link or the QRC code that's here right now, you can learn more about our partner MoonPod and even get a 10% discount on anything that you purchase at the MoonPod site. So that's really cool.
So what makes him special, Brian? I
You know,
found that.
the when you know how beanbag chairs have, like, when you sit down on them, you can actually feel the beans.
Right.
This is different. They are, like, super comfortable. I mean, like, I was shocked,
Okay.
when they actually look good too. And they actually are, you can move them in different shapes. So you can
Okay,
have it
cool.
where it kinda sits up and it's almost like a chair, or you can
Mhm.
have it you can lean it back and it's like a chase lounge.
All right.
They
Neat.
come with, they come with, like, ottomans, armrests, like, so you can put an armrest over the top of the main beanbag. Yeah, so they come in all these different configurations, so it's really, really cool.
That's awesome. So I could just redo my living room, right?
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely. Just
cool.
put
Okay.
beanbags everywhere, you know?
Moonpod living
Moonpod,
room.
yeah, Moonpod at living home, right? Oh, man. Well, everybody, listen, we are talking about the life and times of President Jimmy Carter, and his life. Um, I love the fact that shortly after his presidency, he founded the Carter Center.
Mhm.
And I'm going to read you a little bit about its mission. And it says the Carter Center is guided by the principles of our founders, Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, founded in 1982 in partnership with Emory University on a fundamental commitment to human rights and the alleviation of human suffering. The center seeks to prevent and resolve conflicts, enhance freedom and democracy, and improve health. And as a non governmental organization, or NGO, the Carter Center has helped to advance peace and health in more than 80 countries. When I think about this, I can't help but think that, you know, for all the criticisms that Jimmy Carter got, during his presidency, and then maybe even after his presidency, that he got a bum rap.
Mhm.
um, do you think that way,
Yeah,
Sheila?
I do. I mean, I think you know what? And I think he probably didn't even care that much. Like, I
Right,
just feel like he
right,
was here to just he just wanted to make a difference.
right.
because he's done as much after his presidency or more, with the Carter Center. And um, I mean, somebody had said that on the comments, like that everything he's done, and we all know about Habitat for Humanity. I
Right,
think that's
right,
what gets known the most, that he
right.
does that. He worked there until he was 95 or 96, and
Yeah.
he he fell at the age of 95, had
Yeah,
14
yeah, and he went
stitches.
back, right? He
Yeah,
went
he
back
went
and
back
started
the next
working.
day. Yeah. Like, that's
What
amazing.
a man, what a man, what a man. What a mighty fine man. Um, here's some things from, the White House on him. It says that Carter worked hard to combat the continuing economic woes of inflation and unemployment during his presidency. But by the end of his administration, he would claim an increase of nearly 8 million jobs and a decrease in the budget deficit measured in percentage of the gross national product. Unfortunately, inflation and interest rates were at near record highs, and efforts to reduce them caused a short recession. He did a lot in domestic affairs as well. Um, he dealt with the energy shortage by establishing a national energy policy and by decontrolling domestic petroleum prices to stimulate production. His expansion of the national park system included the protection of 103 million acres of Alaskan lands
Yeah.
and to increase human and social services. Now, this is something that I did not know. I always thought that this thing was always around, but he created the Department of Education.
Interesting, right?
I was blown away by that. He bolstered the Social Security system and appointed record numbers of women, blacks, and Hispanics to government jobs. So, I look at this and I'm go, oh, well, it's a mixed bag, right?
Mhm.
It's a mixed bag. And so I can't help but think, wow, well, you know, um, he probably did get a bum rap.
The good people often do, right? Or maybe we all do.
Right. Listen, everybody, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about how President Carter's doing and what's happening with his hospice care.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And welcome back to This Morning with Soulivity. I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Sheila Applegate. Hey, Sheila.
Hey there.
Hey, this is Brian Johnson. We're talking about the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter. And as we stated earlier in a story from The Guardian, the oldest living president has opted to spend his remaining time at his home. This is from a statement by the Carter Center. The former peanut farmer, Georgia governor, and 39th president from 1977 to 1981, has been in ill health for several years, suffering falls and skin cancer melanoma, which spread to his liver and brain. The 90-year-old has entered hospice care at his home in Plains, Georgia, instead of receiving additional medical treatment. So we send out our hearts, our prayers, and support to his entire family. I know, Sheila, you and I have a very special connection to this choice of hospice.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings about this choice of his?
I think it's a beautiful choice. One that I hope I get to make for myself someday.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that takes having a home that can care for you, and I've had the opportunity to be at the bed of people on hospice many times in my life, partly
Mhm.
with family and partly because of my role in helping people transition. And it's just a very sacred time for everyone to come together. It's a beautiful way to die, in my opinion.
Yeah. When I heard that, when I first heard the news, I thought that he had already passed.
Mm.
And then I heard that, he was going to the hospice, and he was going to do it at his home. This, Sheila. I mean, my father passed just a year or so ago, and he
Mhm.
also went into hospice care. But he went in hospice care at the hospital. He was too weak to be able to be moved at that time. But the amount of love and support that he received and our family received was
Mhm.
extraordinary. It's
Yeah.
extraordinary. I again, like you, I hope that when when I'm ready to transition, that's the way that it will happen for me as well. Especially given the fact that, like Jimmy Carter, his family, he will be probably surrounded by his family.
Right.
They can all say goodbye and be with him
Mhm.
during, his last moments in this dimension of living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something we didn't talk about is he has a very strong faith.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was seeing he wrote 32 books
Yes.
after his presidency, which blew my mind. But many of them were about aging. Well, he wrote a couple about living your life in your later years and claiming it, and then he also did a lot of meditation books. And he was in the Christian faith, but it's still, whatever faith it is, having that deep connection to something beyond, I think,
Yeah.
helps you to just release into the process.
When I think about his life, I think as the oldest living president, because he's still alive, y'all.
Right.
And then he'll still be alive after he transitions, so we'll still
Right.
call him
I
the
can't wait
oldest
to
living
talk to
president.
him then.
Right. I look at like those books, I look at his faith, and I look at the connection by what we try to talk about here on Soulivity, which is
Mhm.
about that passion, purpose, and high quality living, and that
Right.
how that manifested itself in his life, even more after his presidency, with like the Carter Center. We were talking about that just a moment ago, and just some amazing things. I mean, we talked about that. The Carter Center has helped to advance peace and health in more than 80 countries. But what does that look like, right? I mean,
Right.
was that just marketing, or did they actually do some things? And the answer is absolutely positively. They were changing lives around the world. I'll give you a couple of highlights here. The Carter Center led a coalition that reduced incidence of the guinea worm disease by 99.99%.
Right.
Basically, it was eliminated, making it likely to be the first human disease since smallpox to be eradicated.
Right. Like,
Right. I mean, they observed 103 elections in 39 countries to help establish and strengthen democracies. They helped to establish a village-based healthcare delivery system in thousands of communities in Africa that now have trained healthcare personnel and volunteers to distribute drugs and provide health education. So, I mean, these are things where, like when the AIDS epidemic happened in Africa, or more recently with the Ebola breakout. There's a reason why some of these communities were able to battle it and rebound,
mhm.
and that's in part by this kind of work, where they had
Right.
at least a front line that was built to help these people through these most challenging times. And so I go back and say, if that's not purpose, I don't know what is.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? He even did the other thing with that blew my mind that I didn't realize is that he was in mediation for conflicts all the way up
Yeah.
to in other countries like Ecuador,
Right.
Colombia, Middle East, Indonesia, Venezuela, like just name everyone that you can think of. And he was called in for mediation, he or the center, all the way up to 2020.
Wow.
I mean, it's
wow.
so yeah, I do think he got a bad rap.
Yeah.
the way
Yeah.
it
See,
is
and these are the
now.
things I'm talking about, right? And so when you think of Jimmy Carter, you immediately think about his presidency, and you think about the economy in terms of inflation at the time. You think about the year-long hostage crisis that happened, that was highly political.
Mhm.
Because the moment that Carter became president, they let the hostages go. So I mean, so that
What you
was
mean the
to make sure
moment Reagan became president?
Reagan. I'm sorry, Reagan took. They took him. They
Right.
let him go, and so that was to make sure that Carter was not going to be president.
Right. And it kind of, I don't want to get into a huge topic right now, but it kind of shows some of the manipulation in politics that was started back then that we're
Right.
seeing today. Yeah.
Exactly. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes to talk a little bit more about the life and legacy of Jimmy Carter.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? It isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, We will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices, and together we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. This is Brian Wesley Johnson. I'm joined by Sheila Applegate. Sheila, wow.
Yeah,
This was a great show. I'm
it
glad we did it.
was.
I'm really happy that we did it. Um, the, Jimmy Carter really personifies the mantra of passion, purpose, and living. He really, really does.
Hmm.
What are some of the things that when he does decide to transition that you'll take away from his life?
I think that I would like to just live my life with that same passion that he did, the passion to help and to use my own gifts in whatever way I can for as long as I can, and to enjoy life, because I think he chose family, life, and service.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was he grew up with humble means, but he was larger than life.
Mhm.
You know, he was a man strong in his convictions, strong in his belief to support people. One important fact about him was he was a politician that embraced things like human and civil rights when it was not popular.
Right. I
Yeah.
Bernice King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, tweeted about him this morning, which is actually
Mm,
beautiful. And
mm,
can I just read that a little bit?
absolutely.
The King Center's staff and I join the nation in prayer for our former governor, state senator, and our nation's 39th president, Jimmy Carter. I consider him a friend, as did my mother, Mrs. Coretta Scott King, and my grandfather, Dr. Martin Luther King Sr.
Mhm.
And then she said, former President Carter's love and compassion for all people set him apart as a leader, servant, and simply a great man striving to achieve a beloved community.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think that's amazing. Like, what a
Yeah,
beautiful thing, you
that's
know?
beautiful. That's beautiful. Um, well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Listen, I got a couple of things I want to tell people about before we wrap, because I have a very special wrap that I'd like to do in honor of
Oh,
President Carter.
nice.
Want to remind you that coming up on Wednesday is another great Consciously Awesome Living with our own Sheila Applegate.
Mhm.
And then on Thursday is another great show, The Steps to Happiness with Teresa Greco. And of course, on Friday is another great show, Gratitude is a Journey. And then later on today at 12 noon, Tammy Talks.
Yay.
This is actually a really cool show today, because she's going to be talking to former NFL player and motivational speaker Billy Taylor
Nice.
on on how sports can be used as a resilient tool. So I can't wait to hear about that and be part of that. Also, we want to remind you to follow us on social media. You can go to our website to go replay any of our old episodes, or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can find out about things that are happening as well. Also, please join our mailing list by going to soulivity.com/this-morning, or hit the QR code, which is showing right now. You'll get access to exclusive content, as well as early notifications for things like giveaways, because yes, we do giveaway stuff here. Um, Sheila, again, this was a really, really great show.
It was. I'm honored to be able to be a part of it.
Yeah, on this President's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Um, Wow. Listen, so on behalf of all of us, I want to say thanks for joining us for another great episode of This Morning with Soulivity. We hope that you come back and join us every day at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast, or listen in at 9 a.m. Eastern at 9 a.m. Pacific on Thursdays and Fridays on KMET 1490 a.m. for all of you out on the West Coast. Listen, until next time, keep on having real conversations with passion and purpose, and create a high quality living today. We'll leave you with these words from President Carter's speech when he accepted his Nobel Prize award in 2002. He says, war may sometimes be a necessary evil, but no matter how necessary, it is always an evil, never a good. We will not learn how to live together in peace by killing each other's children. The bond of our common humanity is stronger than the divisiveness of our fears and prejudices. God gives us the capacity for choice. We can choose to alleviate suffering. We can choose to work together for peace. We can make these changes, and we must. Wow. So,
Amen.
right? And so today's show, we're going to close out because this was the life and legacy of Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, a humanitarian, a president, a soul, a caretaker, a humanitarian. So thank you, Jimmy Carter, wherever you are right now. Bless you. And we send you peaceful thoughts as you move into this next phase of living on the other side. So thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time for another This Morning with Soulivity tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.